Major airlines in India, Japan, and the United Arab Emirates cancelled some flights to American destinations on Tuesday, amid a plan to operate 5G networks in some American regions, on Wednesday. On Tuesday, Emirates Airlines announced the suspension of its flights to American cities, starting from Wednesday, due to the operation of the fifth-generation 5G networks in some airports. The company said, in a notice on its website, that the decision came due to operational concerns related to the planned operation of fifth-generation mobile services in the United States, explaining that among the destinations are Boston, Chicago, Dallas-Fort Worth, Houston, Miami, Newark, Orlando, and San Francisco, and Seattle. The two American mobile service companies decided to implement the 5G last December, but the U.S. Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, intervened, and the delay was postponed to January 5, and then it was postponed again for 2 weeks, so that the application date became January 19. The chief executives of the largest U.S. airlines have warned of catastrophic disruption to travel and cargo operations if carriers roll out 5G technology as planned Wednesday without restricting the technology near U.S. airports, according to Tech Explorer. Extended disagreement. For many months, the U.S. aviation market has been at loggerheads with mobile network service providers, specifically AT&T and Verizon, with the imminent expansion of the application of 5G mobile networks, as many concerns emerged about frequency interference. Affects the operation of sensitive devices inside aircraft, which is an influencing factor in landing operations. The dispute began after AT&T and Verizon paid $67 billion to obtain licenses to use large C-bands to power and upgrade their networks to match the provision of 5G mobile services, according to Forbes. 5G technology is considered a revolutionary addition to the telecommunications market, because it provides high speeds of the Internet up to a data transfer rate of 10 gigabits per second, which is 100 times faster than what is currently provided by the fourth-generation networks, but this did not alleviate the concerns of airlines. What is the cause of the concerns? The C-band bandwidth on which the process of expanding the spread of fifth-generation services depends, is the same band used by radio altimeters used in the cockpits of commercial aircraft to transport passengers and goods, and it is considered a primary means that helps aircraft pilots determine the altitude of aircraft. While flying over hills and bodies of water, which helps it avoid collisions during difficult visibility conditions, as well as complete a safe landing in difficult weather conditions. Postponement attempts. The Federal Aviation Authority (FAA) and a number of companies operating in the field of aviation, led by Boeing and Airbus, demanded last year, to postpone the expanded application of the fifth-generation networks, to ensure the safety of flights, and to avoid making any transfers, delays, cancellations or any other disruption of navigation in American airspace. But the two mobile service companies decided to implement the 5G by last December, but the opposition front was strong, especially after the intervention of the U.S. Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, and then it was postponed to January 5. There are several circles that justify the concern of the American airline industry, given that it has not yet recovered from the negative effects of the corona pandemic on international travel. These departments expected that about 32 million passengers would be affected annually, and the sector incurred annual losses estimated at $1.6 billion, if the 5G was implemented hastily without taking the necessary precautions on the part of the telecommunications companies. Compatibility. Despite the FAA's refusal position, it has never denied the compatibility of operating the fifth-generation networks with safe navigation in many countries of the world, according to a statement by the authority on January 3, noting that the matter needs to reduce the energy used to operate the networks. The fifth generation in the vicinity of airports. Therefore, AT&T and Verizon quickly made pledges to reduce the signal strength of 5G networks in the vicinity of airports, in addition to operating new generation networks at the level of U.S. states at low levels in terms of energy during the first 6 months of implementation, according to New York Times. But despite the pledges, the date of implementation was postponed again for 2 weeks, so that the date of implementation will be January 19, Wednesday. Why the crisis in the United States? According to the Federal Aviation Authority website, many countries of the world have already started implementing 5G services without crises in air navigation, and the authority attributed this to a number of measures taken by countries such as France. The measures are to reduce the energy levels of the networks, as France requires that the energy levels to operate the fifth-generation stations be a maximum of 631 watts, while the maximum in the United States is 1,585 watts, as well as directing the antennas down, to avoid any interference with flights, contrary to what it is the case in the United States. The authority explained that the buffer zones for 5G networks inside airports in France extend for a distance that aircraft travel in 96 seconds, while the distance in the United States traveled by aircraft in only 20 seconds. And that fifth-generation service providers put permanent insurance measures to protect air navigation. As for the United States, these procedures only last 6 months.